The real question is, what's everyone's thoughts on weapon durability? All right, we're locking down the stream. Everyone just, shh. We don't want to start a big Twitter fight. We're just going to calmly discuss this. As we get into the randomizer, I'm going to be asking you guys every now and then to drop some Zelda takes on me, and then we're going to discuss those Zelda takes. I'm not going to try to, like, completely debate anyone out of their take. Because you guys know me. I'm pretty hippie, like, oh, that's interesting and all that. But we'll see if there's any takes hot enough for me to be like, hold the phone. Wait a minute. Wait a gosh darn minute. So we'll see where we go. Wind Waker will always be my favorite GameCube/Wii era Zelda, but Twilight Princess was still good. I do think they overdid the dark and gritty aesthetic a bit though. Yeah, I feel like I used to say the same thing. Like I have jokes like that in 64 Things Wrong with Twilight Princess. I still like kind of feel that way, but like because Zelda really hasn't gone back to that dark gritty aesthetic yet, I don't really mind it as much. Like it makes Twilight Princess stand out a bit more to me, that it's kind of like the emo Zelda type thing. I don't know how hot the take is, but for me, A Link Between Worlds is the platonic ideal for what a Zelda game should be. Ooh, I wouldn't put it in like at the very top of my Zelda games, but I do think A Link Between Worlds is really underrated, and I think you know what? I'm gonna add on to your hot take. I think that A Link Between Worlds getting experimental with how you get the items and like renting them and then losing them when going into dungeons, I think that was like the genesis of, haha, Sega reference. That was like the genesis or beginning of the Zelda team being like, okay, what actually makes a Zelda game, and like what makes a Zelda dungeon, and what is the Zelda structure, and what are we willing to change about that to kind of pursue the same, like, God, this sounds pretentious, but like philosophical or overall design goal, but we can actually change like how we do that and the actual like more minute structure of it. I think A Link Between Worlds was the first time where they're like, okay, we'll get a little bit experimental here. And then with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, they've of course like blown open that entire like how you get items in Zelda, how you approach those. I think, yeah, Link Between Worlds was like the first foot in the door for that. Played Minish Cap for the first time earlier this year, and it was so good. I think the handhelds are so good. They very much are. I'm really glad that like the handhelds kind of let them, I don't need rupees. I'm glad that the handhelds let them keep 2D like top-down Zelda alive, like when they might have otherwise just completely kind of pivoted to 3D. It'd be really nice to get another top-down Zelda, like in the near future. I tried Minish Cap when it was added to Nintendo Switch Online. I wish I enjoyed it more, just kind of stalled out on it. It's not bad, just something wasn't clicking. Okay, here's my hot take, and I should do a full replay through of Minish Cap, but I kind of did the same thing where I played like through to the first dungeon, and I think Minish Cap's, oh God, this is gonna sound like I'm trying to make a really bad pun. Minish Cap is a lot like smaller scale than than Zelda games that have come since, or like the bigger top-down ones. I think it was like understandable, like as a GameCube or as a Game Boy, like Zelda and everything. But I think it can read a little bit different if you're not like prepared for that going into it. And some people like will really like the smaller scale and everything of it. And I swear I'm not making a pun about the whole shrinking mechanic. But the actual like ambitiousness of it, it's a bit more laid back, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, but I can understand bouncing off it a bit. Because again, kind of what I was saying with Link to the Past, Minish Cap is one that like a lot of people like say like, oh, this one's so underrated, and like we're really happy that it came to Nintendo Switch Online. So if it just doesn't quite gel with your expectations, I can see it, yeah, bouncing off it a little bit. Minish Cap feels like a safe game. They didn't try too much with it, so it just kind of exists. I don't know if I would, I did say less ambitious earlier, but I don't know if I'd call it safe, because I think they like the shrinking mechanic and stuff, like, that's a fun kind of twist on the, like, because most Zelda games have, like, you can do stuff in this form or stuff in this form, like Light World, Dark World, Adult Link, Young Link, big or small in Minish Cap. So I like how it's like a new twist on that duality that a lot of Zelda games kind of play with. And I think like your hat guy and everything, like that's just really fun. So I think there's some stuff that it does like a really good job of and that I enjoy. And it's like, it's unique enough in its own way, but I do understand if you're like expecting like a more ambitious, like Link to the Past, like tier adventure. Oh yeah, the Kinstone mechanic is pretty unique. But that's another thing Dragon's bringing up in the chat, which that's fair. If you are like a completionist or like ticking off every little like check, if that's like something that drives you for like Zelda games or like open world games and stuff, I could see the Kinstones being a Korok-esque pain in the ass, where it's like, I gotta do all of these? But then for other people, like, that's, like, why they super love the game, so that's really interesting. Egoraptor's Sequelitis on Ocarina of Time is so rough to watch nowadays, since most of the arguments Aaron makes strike me as just him blaming the game for his inability to pay attention. One of my videos that's still, like, getting the most, like, old views on YouTube is I have a whole big analysis video where I just went and, like, basically reacted and like gave my takes on that entire video. It's like an hour and a half long. So if you're watching the VOD of this on YouTube, check that out. So I've like given my take on all those takes if you want to see that. I try not to judge any of Egoraptor's Zelda takes or any of like, because there's all the compilations of like how much he died in like the Game Grumps playthrough and stuff. And as someone that is crazy ADHD and gets distracted all the time playing this randomizer, I'm not gonna judge anyone for like how they play Zelda, like, and upload that footage to the internet. But I do disagree with a lot of like the Ocarina of Time's Sequelitis. I think it's interesting to see other people's perspectives, and so that's why I did the whole like kind of discussion, like analyzing that video type thing. So yeah, I don't personally, like, shit on his gameplay or anything like that, because I know my gaming skills go out the window when I'm performing for people. That's just a fact. Hot take, I enjoyed Fi as much as Midna for different reasons. Also, I enjoyed Spirit Tracks, except for the flute. Spirit Tracks is good, and I think Fi just gets a bit of a bad rap because of all the, like, tutorial stuff. Fi or Fee or however you pronounce it. Fee, Fi, Fo, and Fum. But yeah, I really like them as a character, and I like the whole like robot like, Master, I presume there's an 80% chance that you need to go through the next door. Like, that's a fun gimmick for a Zelda companion to have, so I really like them. And also, yes, could everyone in my chat please make sure their Wii batteries are not depleted? Hot take, there's no bad water dungeon besides Great Bay Temple. We've gotten to the point with the water temple that it's like when you look back, it's like, it's not that bad. It was just kind of a meme that it was that bad. But I still think the water temple in Ocarina of Time, if you know what you're doing, it's fine. And if you get lucky with the order you kind of do stuff, it's still a good temple. But I think the problem with the water temple in Ocarina of Time is there's a few specific spots where if you fuck up your key order, or you just mess up, like, if you just forget a single key, it can be really time-consuming to get yourself back on the right track, and it can be really frustrating to figure out, like, okay, wait, how do I actually set the water level back to where I need it? And, like, which rooms did I forget to check? And, like, and so it's simultaneously, the first time you go through the water temple, you can run into that and have it be an issue. But the other problem is that you can go through the water temple one time and have everything go smoothly and you don't run into any of those hiccups, and it's like, oh, okay, that's fine. But then if you just forget one thing, or you do, like, activate one of those hiccups, like, later on, it can frustrate you just as much as if you're going through it the first time. It's like, no, wait, I've beaten this before. What is going on here? What am I doing? And yeah, so I think that's the issue with Water Temple, is there's other temples in Zelda that's like, oh, this is boring, or oh, this is a dumb mechanic. But I think the thing with Water Temple is just that, like, there's some booby traps, there's some mental booby traps, and if you fall into them, that temple can suck and just not be fun to complete. But if you avoid them, it's not that bad. It's like a pretty good temple. And like, once you've been a complete Zelda degenerate and play as much randomizer as me, you've memorized all the quirks of the Water Temple. Those booby traps can't really happen to you anymore. But the potential is definitely still there. And I think that's why, like, the Water Temple still deserves a little bit of infamy. Just a little bit. And yeah, the moment you're able to put the iron boots assigned to a button, the Water Temple loses a lot of its annoyance. Like, that's the thing. Once you get those kind of quality of life things, a lot of those annoyance or booby traps are like smoothed over just a little bit, because it's not, oh, I gotta keep going to the menu screen, switch on my boots, go down to this thing, take them off, float up. Oh shit, this is one where I need to hook shot, not float up to it. Okay, go to my pause screen, put the boots back on, sink back down. Okay, now I look up with my hook shot. Oh, okay, go up, take the boots back off. And like, once you get rid of that, it becomes a lot less frustrating to kind of get yourself out of those booby trap things. The Ice Temple in Link to the Past is worse than the Water Temple in that game. I don't remember the real names. I'm completely blanking on the real names as well. Oh, that's not good that there's one of these down here. But also, I would agree. Yeah, the ice dungeons in both Link to the Past and Link Between Worlds, they knew what game they were making a sequel to with Link Between Worlds. The ice dungeons, those are the frustrating ones in those games. I feel like this might be a hot take. I think the Fire Temple in Ocarina of Time is one of the worst temples in the entire series. I don't know if I'd agree with that. That's a pretty hot take for the Fire Temple. I could see it not being everyone's cup of tea. And there's that, like, in randomizer, I might agree that Fire Temple kind of sucks, just because of how much you never want anything to be in deep fire. I think what carries Fire, I really like the aesthetic of Fire Temple, and in like a lot of video games, I really like fire or lava levels, so they get a little bit of bonus points from me for that. Love how Clocktown feels with the NPCs being on a schedule, and I wish they made another Zelda game like that. It would be very cool to see them do approach that concept again. Especially, yeah, like the whole everyone has their own schedule. It's not like 100% reliant on what Link does. Like, everyone's doing their own thing. I really like that. It really, for a game from 2000, that world really feels alive. Hot take 3, Shadow Temple is one of the worst dungeons in the franchise. Ooh. I'd be interested if there's like a specific, or if you have a specific reason for that. Because I can kind of understand it, because Shadow Temple's, it's more linear, it's more combat focused than a lot of the, well, I guess any Zelda dungeon, but especially Ocarina of Time. But I kind of like that like sets it apart and like differentiates it. Like, I kind of like that it's a little bit of a different style. I have bunny ears. What am I doing with this slow-ass walking? Nothing wrong with linearity in combat. Twilight Princess is my favorite after all. I just feel it was rushed and repetitive. Yeah, I guess that, yeah, it's fair. If you really like Twilight Princess, a combat focus wouldn't really be your issue with that. But yeah, that's fair. I guess I can see the argument that having Bottom of the Well and Shadow Temple be really similar aesthetically, but like pretty close together, because like you need to do Bottom of the Well to get Lens of Truth to get into Shadow Temple. I can see having those like back to back could feel a little bit like they should have differentiated them a little bit more, like, looks-wise. Hot take, linear combat-focused dungeons are generally better than puzzle dungeons. I would agree. I'd probably agree because of that generally, because I think it's harder to like fuck up one of the more linear, like, action-heavy dungeons compared to compared to like a puzzle gimmick that just doesn't work or anything like that. But if they have a puzzle gimmick that like really, really works, then that's when it's something special. My favorite City in the Sky, it tends to get mixed opinions. I like City in the Sky because it fulfills all of my Spider-Man fantasies. I really like the hookshot as a mechanic in 3D Zeldas, and City in the Sky is the most hookshot focused dungeon ever. So yeah, City in the Sky is actually probably up there for one of my favorite, definitely one of my favorite Twilight Princess dungeons. What do you guys think about the Lakebed Temple? I'm just leaving this in for the people watching on YouTube. If you say what I think you're gonna say in the comments, I will judge. I will judge. Hot take, bring back upgradable weapons and items. Ooh, yeah, I don't know how specifically you'd get that to work with like the style they've been doing with Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, but it was always like very cool when it's like, oh, my boomerang's like magic now, it can go farther, or like I upgraded my bow. That's one of my favorite things about Link to the Past. Oh yeah, I forgot that they did the item upgrades in Link Between Worlds with the little octopuses. That's very cute. I loved those. They should come back. The real question is, what's everyone's thoughts on weapon durability? All right, we're locking down the stream. Everyone just, shh. We don't want to start a big Twitter fight. We're just gonna calmly discuss this topic to ourselves. Okay. Weapon durability. Breath of the Wild. I get why it bugs some people. I get that inventory management could be a little bit annoying in that game. It even grates on me a few times. But with Breath of the Wild, I always saw it as, someone said this in the chat already, necessary evil. They definitely, that was their intent with the game. They wanted you to have that like, oh fuck, my thing just broke, I gotta pull out another thing. Oh, that just broke. You're constantly picking up weapons. You're constantly having to cycle through stuff. You're like, it's just supposed to be chaos of you using like a whole bunch of things to defeat groups of enemies. And I think the inventory management and like how much it's like, oh, like my items are full now, like that could be annoying in Breath of the Wild. I get that, but I never super had a problem with it in Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom solved everything, in my opinion. I'm willing to hear some takes on like how they could have still improved it more in Tears of the Kingdom, but I think solving that problem by not getting rid of weapon durability, but adding on to that system with the combining thing is just genius level move. And I think it like solves everything, because now whenever you kill a really powerful enemy, it's not like, oh, I gotta throw away an item and like I can only hold so many powerful things at once, and like there was always like a little bit of kind of conflict in you whenever you got like powerful resources or a powerful weapon in Breath of the Wild. But now, like when you get like horns from every Lionel you beat, you always have those, and you can always like add those onto just whatever handle you pick up off the floor. And so I think it's literally like the best of both worlds. For you have that weapon durability, there's still that craziness of like, oh, I'm going to use this thing, and then I'm going to use this thing, and then I'm going to use this thing, and how much things do I need to throw at this Gleeok? Sorry, I just punched the microphone there because I was just so excited about weapon durability. The little pop-up just appeared. It's like, you can only punch this microphone 2 more times, and then you'll need to find a new one. Like, Tears of the Kingdom is, like, that is one of the best areas that Tears of the Kingdom improved on. It's just, it's so, so good in my opinion. Feel the same way about weapon durability in Breath of the Wild and A Link Between Worlds as I do about the 3-day mechanic in Majora's Mask. I get why it's there. I appreciate the game design. I'm happy for the people it worked for, but God, it's just not for me. And that's a very fair perspective as well. There's like, I wish that was a way more just common sentiment in like gamer culture in general, where it's like, where you could just say, yeah, I just don't like this, or I just don't vibe with this, without it like having to be like objectively bad or objectively they're taking the series in a wrong direction or something. Excuse me, sir? Can I help you? Like, okay, I'm gonna say some sacrilegious stuff for people that if there's anyone that follows me just because I made a lot of 64 things wrong or make a lot of Sonic jokes, I feel like that was something that I kind of really had to realize was like 2D Sonic isn't bad. 2D Sonic's just not for me. I just vibe with a different kind of like platformer and much enjoy like more precise like physics and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean that like the original Sonic games are bad, because obviously like a whole bunch of, God, the amount of Twitter threads that I have seen of people analyzing like the Sonic Superstars footage for like, all right, they dropping any red flags? How are the drop spins looking? How is the loop-de-loops looking? Like, I love seeing that stuff now, because it's like, this super probably isn't for me, but I love like how in-depth and how much like people care about this and like how important it is for them. Whereas like Josh from 6 years ago would probably just say something like, I feel really bad for all these Sonic people that just grew up never knowing what a good platformer is. Like, I feel bad for them. Like that would be my old take, but now it's just different strokes, different folks. A hot take, bring back magic and spells. Okay, whatever Nintendo's gonna wind up doing for whatever game gets released 5 years from now as their sequel to Tears of the Kingdom, I'm sure they're gonna have better ideas than me. But you held a gun to my head and you said, Josh, if they're building on Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, like they've kind of said they wanted to, what do you do? The two things I'd say is like, I'd probably want a new overworld if we're going for, or if we're doing like same engine, very much is still inspired by Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I probably would want a new overworld if we're doing a third game. But the other thing is, yes, bring back magic, and you have all these like physics properties and everything. If you stole from Nuts and Bolts for Tears of the Kingdom, steal from like the older Elder Scrolls or any of those games where you can make up magic spells, steal for that for the next Zelda and go full in on like that magic angle. If you need to make Zelda a playable character because she's more into the magic stuff and the cerebral part of things, that would also be really good too. Wouldn't say no to that. But that, yeah, expanding on the magic thing, and like having a magic system that works with all of like the chemistry and physics stuff that they've already done for the last two Zelda games, I think that would be a really cool angle to go with. Because like they have all these cool like elemental interactions and everything, and so if you had like fire spells, water spells, lightning spells, and could combine those or like add a whole bunch of new elements for that, you could do some really cool stuff. Honestly, truly hope the next Zelda game is not like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. I love them, but I do hope we get a more traditional Zelda game next. So the main Zelda team has said that they're gonna be sticking with or expanding on this formula for a bit. So I think we're due for at least one more game that will at least be a bit more open-ended and everything. But because Nintendo is developing like everything for one console now, it's not like handheld and like home console stuff. I do hope they have like Grezzo or one of the other teams. I feel like they should have a team doing a more traditional top-down Zelda to kind of balance out the big ambitious shit they're doing with like the mainline series. I feel like that would be like the good medium balance to go. Or they could even do like a more traditional like 3D Zelda. But I think the main team is probably looking to like, okay, what can we do if the Switch 2 or like with a more power, whatever the next console is more powerful, obviously. What can we do with that and expand on the system seems to be what they want to do. But I would really like if they had like Grezzo or hell, fucking get Capcom to do another one. They've been kicking ass lately. And yeah, do a more throwback Zelda that way.